Recorded Books presents The Child in the Electric Chair, The Execution of George Junius Stinney Jr., and The Making of a Tragedy in the American South, by Eli Faber. Foreword by Carol Birkin. Narrated by Beresford Bennett with Karen Chilton.
Foreword. Eli Faber and I met in graduate school. During the tumultuous years of anti-war protest, the rise of the Black Panthers, Students for a Democratic Society, SDS, and the occupation of college campus buildings by angry students. The friendship that quickly emerged between us was a bit of a surprise to us both. I was a proud lefty, quick to form my political opinions, always ready to join a picket line or a march in Washington, emotionally committed to that vision of a perfected world that defined much of my generation. Eli was intellectually, though not actively engaged, with all the same issues of the day, but he was maddeningly willing to see the complexities and ambiguities of our nation's political life. Yet, even in these early years, I recognized that Eli was that rare person, a man both honorable and sincere, a thoughtful man who did not wear his deep empathy for others on his sleeve or shout his intense commitment to justice from any rooftop. Luckily for me, our friendship lasted over 50 years. When, a decade ago, Eli told me he was working on a book about South Carolina's 1944 execution of a young African-American boy, I had misgivings. Historian and subject seemed a bad fit. Eli's roots were in Queens, New York, and he had lived a life untouched by violence or by the deep racial hatred that I, who grew up in Alabama in the 1940s and 50s, knew all too well. Could he make the necessary connection to the residents of small-town South Carolina, black or white, he planned to interview? Would he understand the culture of the rural South? I needn't have feared. The people he interviewed in Alcaloo and Stinney's aging siblings saw in Eli what I had seen so many years before, his sincere interest in understanding events and the people who were caught up in them. Eli knew how to listen, and thus they talked. Eli worked on this book patiently. He scoured South Carolina archives and newspapers for accounts of the murder of the two young girls and the trial and execution of George Junius Stinney Jr. He interviewed eyewitnesses and pored over the interviews collected by another scholar years ago. Eli contacted Stinney family members who were at first reluctant to share their memories with him, but soon warmed to the project. He carefully and deeply read the literature on Jim Crow, lynching, and life in the mill towns of the South. Throughout these years, he labored to understand the motives and the actions of the men and women involved in Stinney's brief life, and capture the cultural and social context in which the tragedy played out. As he at last began to write The Child in the Electric Chair, Eli confessed to me that the most difficult part of this project was coming to terms with the fact that he would never truly know the guilt or innocence of this 14-year-old boy who was convicted of murder. Yet he never doubted that Stinney's story must be told. In the fall of 2019, Eli called me with the terrible news. He had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer that February. Through all the chemo treatments, the doctor visits, and a bout with the COVID-19 virus, Eli continued to work on the book. He was not afraid of what lay ahead for him. He was only fearful that he would not have time to finish telling George Junius Stinney Jr.'s story. In January 2020, when he knew he was losing his battle with cancer, he called me with a request. Would I use his notes to write the final chapter, edit the manuscript, find a publisher, and see the book through to publication? I agreed. By the end of April, Eli was gone. I kept my promise. I kept it not merely as an act of friendship,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?